Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. Today's Tuesday, I believe. Yes, Tuesday, December 8th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And it was an interesting day. We started off really bearish, and then we really spent the rest of the day. We had a nice little bit of a rebound here that tried to fill the gap. And then we just kind of, this is more sideways. Notice how the price action's back and forth above and below the EMA. And that really started here. We had a pretty good rally here to try to fill that gap. But notice we got this. I saw this two different ways. There's a blue channel coming down, but I also looked at the possibility of that red channel, the lighter one there. You may not be able to see that. I don't know. When I back out and make it a little bigger, you probably will. But we had the break, a couple of legs down to a new low. Then we rallied. We had the break of this one here, almost a measured. It's not quite a measured move, but you can see here, that's what I would be looking for. There's your first leg up and your second. You can see we didn't quite get that, and then it was downhill from there. But it's more of a sideways downhill. There is a two-tiered channel here. This is a midline. It should be a little lighter. But there's a two-tiered channel that worked down the rest of the afternoon. It started about 10 o'clock or so and worked down. So it was, in the end, this is just kind of a sideways day. But it's such a big move down and a big move up that you got a couple of nice trends. So um, these kind of days, if you draw these shorter term trend lines, it really helps you out because you notice you got this one going up, and then you got the break, and it tried to go higher multiple times. It kind of went sideways there before you got a chance to go short. It made a new low. It went sideways, had a little failed break lower. It's coming up. It got a break, a new high. And then you got a little two-tiered. This is actually a midline. Two-tiered channel. I wasn't sure if this was two-tiered, if we had a break right here. But, notice it came back into play and right here again. And then you finally got a break and a new low. And then we started working up, and we got a break of that, a new high. And really, this break is so questionable here that generally a lot of times you'll get another attempt and it pushes down and get a new low. Then you're working up, you get a break, a new high. And of course, if you'd have drawn that trend line, you realize maybe there's something going on here. There's a possible short here. Probably should be green, but I didn't mark it. And then you get another double test of that trend line. And that got you into the 2 o'clock hour. So, but I'll back out. We'll talk about the trades. A couple of things here I'm going to make note of. Notice that my chart is a 5,500 volume today. I've been playing around with this, and I hate to bring it up because I know I'm going to get 10 million emails about it. But the 6,500, the volatility, the volume is really up, and it seems like the 6,500 volume, the bars are just getting too big. And you can't hardly get in with a 2-point stop. So I've been playing around, and I'm going to try 5,500 volume for a little while. Maybe it'll change over, the next couple of weeks, and we'll go back. So if you're trading a volume chart, you might want to try 5,500 volume chart. 2,000 ticks probably okay. I've been thinking about just going back to a 2,000 tick, but instead I kind of like the volume channel, so I just stuck with it and made it 5,500 volume. And again, this could change any day, so just be prepared. And if you like the 6,500, stay with it. You don't have to change. There's no real difference other than it makes the bar a little smaller. So please don't send me 5,000 emails on why we changed it again. I know some of you worry about that too much, and there's not a whole lot of difference. It just made your signal bars a little bit smaller. All it is instead of waiting for a volume of 5,500 contracts or 6,500, now the bar closes after 5,500 contracts are traded. So that's the only difference. It just is it's like going from a 5-minute maybe to a 4-minute chart if you're doing time-based charts. And even if you do use a 5,500 volume, I might as well go ahead and say it, because I know I'll get some emails. Your chart will not look exactly like mine. As long as you got the same number of bars for the most part and you're getting the same patterns, that's the best you can do. These These charts are not static like time-based charts, so your chart will never look exactly like mine. It may look close, but it probably will never look exactly like mine. So just keep that in mind. And so let's back out and talk about the trades. Another thing, somebody said something yesterday. I commented on it on the chart, but they said that my bars looked fatter and closer together. It's not a change that I did on NT. I think it was an update to my computer that caused it. I noticed it. It's not that big a deal, but if you notice, the chart looks a little different. And plus, when you zoom in, it really is more obvious. And I've been doing more zooming in lately. So no, I haven't changed any of my settings on NT. It was a upgrade to my update to my computer software that did it. I noticed it right after that. So, but doesn't change anything. The bars are just a little bigger, fatter, and closer together, it seems like. And you can adjust that, but it's not that big a deal. It's not worth fooling with, in my opinion. But some people are ticky about their charts. So if yours changed, that's probably what happened to you too. You probably had a Windows update like I did. I think mine was actually not a Windows update. I think it was a firmware on my, I've got an HP machine, and I think it was a firmware update to HP, so that caused it. So anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about the trades. 7 o'clock came right in here, and you don't want to be going, you don't want to get short there. So we waited on this pullback. There's a first entry and then a second attempt to go higher, and I drew that red line because really your downtrend, we were kind of going sideways here, and the downtrend kind of started off those two swings. So I drew that one as well as the main one here, just to make sure there wasn't something shorter term coming down through there. And it looks like we were, because we did kind of turn down right there. You might, even if you had it right there off the closes, it still kind of turns down right there. I like that one when it was like two attempts to go higher off that trend line and turn down. So that was the first trade I saw, and it's almost 8 o'clock by now, but that was a quick, easy move. And then we just went sideways and we came right over to the main trend line. And notice we're kind of going sideways here, and you got a couple of matching highs. You got that one tick higher, and it actually it went down and then it went back up. And so now you've tested that. You've got a double top here, and then you got a double test of that double top, but then you get this big bearish bar right off the EMA, right off the trend line. You do have to get short pretty close to the lows. I can't remember if there was enough room. It's real close. Your entry would have been 56.50, and you can see it would have been a 4 tick. It would have, to get to the bottom, it takes exactly 4 ticks. So you probably needed to get in this with a little better bar, and you could have gotten an extra tick getting into this. What I recommended doing was, I actually really liked going short below the green bar, but this is really your signal bar here. And you probably could have gotten a tick back in there, but if you came back to that bar and 1 tick lower, your entry was, I don't think it got filled though, if I remember right. No, you wouldn't have got filled on that. So you had to go short below that one. So that makes that one a little iffy, especially as sideways as that is. So really this one should be green. I'm going to change it. What I actually liked doing was waiting on it to break below this bar, the green one, and then dropping a limit order right there at the bottom, maybe a tick back in it, just to make sure you had enough room to get in. And if you entered that way, but really the way you really, unless you're really skilled at price action, you should probably wait on this bar and then try the same thing, but you wouldn't have got filled that way. So it's a little risky. The only reason I like this one, let me show you a little bit of a difference between maybe entering this one close to the lows, is it's coming off the EMA. Notice that we went sideways to get back to this trend line in the EMA, and so that was kind of the reason I liked it. But you also have to be a little bit worried about all this overlap here. So there's a lot of reasons to be concerned about that trade the more I look at it. This morning I liked it a lot and entered it, but looking at it after the fact, it's probably a little risky unless you are trading more aggressive. And so just be careful on a trade like that. You definitely don't want to enter down here this way away from the EMA like that. And then we bounce, and notice this here. Notice that we had a little close outside. It's questionable whether or not it was enough. So you got to be real careful. But notice how we get kind of a reversal pattern. You got a first entry, and then it pushes right through the EMA, goes way up, and then you get a second entry short that fails. And it bounces right off the trend line right there. And so you want to go long right there. And then it keeps pushing up, but it's starting to get sideways here. You actually have a little bit of a close outside right here. But with a failed second entry short, you don't care, especially when it pushed through the EMA like that. So I like going long there. I don't like getting long up here this far away from the EMA though. So if you didn't catch this one, you just kind of have to let this one ride. And you had to just kind of be patient through here for a while. Because we had a close outside, a new high, but sometimes these, when it happens this quick and you get back in the trend line, you got to get another break and a new high. But notice what's happening here. There's a second entry long right there, and there is a break of this and a new low. So this one should probably be green, and it is two measured legs. So there's some reasons to want to go long, but I was afraid we already had a break here and a new high. And so this one, I was a little leery of this one, the fact that it pushed through the EMA. But sometimes you get some setups like that. So, maybe I was thinking too much. If you wanted to be a little aggressive, there's nothing wrong with that one. But I thought it was too risky. And then now we're going sideways, and you definitely don't want to get in any of these. The reason I like this one is that this is a breakout pullback short, and notice we didn't quite get back up to those highs either, and that was another reason. This is a lower high. It made a lower low and a lower high, but this is a breakout pullback short. This is really one leg, even though there's two moves in there. So it's a first attempt to go higher, and then the second attempt it fails, and we're looking for prices to possibly come down because it's real questionable if we had a break here. And so I liked going short right there for the reasons I just talked about. If it wasn't for that breakout pullback short, I wouldn't like that one because we're going sideways again. But notice how it breaks lower and then turns up, and we don't quite get a new high. The close is a lot lower than the last one. The actual bar is lower, and look at that thing go. That turns out, you don't know that it's going to do that. You're just looking to get a scalp out of it, but it turns out to be a great trade. And I would have been measuring that leg right there and looking for something similar to that. See, that gets you down here to the congestion area, little range right there. So, and then we just start going sideways again, but right along that support, there's a big support across there. So you don't want to be getting short down here. And then guess what happens? You get a little failed break lower. And these are the ones I like. When you get a lot of times when you get these failed break lowers or failed break higher, it traps everybody and you get a huge move after that. And if you can catch this, I don't know why that's circled red. That should be blue. Let me change that. I forgot to change it. But if you catch that one trade right there, and it moves pretty quick, so it's questionable if you could get your trade in there in time or not. So if you didn't, I would definitely put me a limit order there and see if it would hover around and come back and get you. And then it took off. And look at that thing go. There's a failed second entry short right here. But we've moved so far and it's so far away from the EMA, and look at it. You're stacking up there and you got a couple of dojis. I don't think you want to take that trade. I think it would have worked, but I still don't think you should take it. 63 and a quarter, 64. If you use the stop, it's a one tick failure, but if you let it tick up and you drop the limit order in there, it would have worked. And if I went long there, I definitely would use a limit order to try to get a better entry, but I don't think you want to go long there. You're too far away from the EMA. You got congestion. So I think you just got to skip it, even though you probably could have got that one, got something out of that. But then notice what happens. You get two tries to go lower below this area, and then it turns up. And notice we traded up into this. That's the first break of this channel. So you're going to see it probably push to make a new high, and then it gives you a breakout pullback. So I like adding on here, and if you didn't enter here, you definitely want to enter here, and off it goes again. So if you just could have caught a couple of these trades, you're in really good shape. If you'd have caught any of those three, that would have been all you needed for the day to make some pretty good money. So I like those two for the reason. This one, it wasn't evident that we kind of had a trading range yet right here. So this looked more like a second entry long, two attempts to go lower below that area. Plus we need a retest anyway. And because you're getting close to the highs here, you might want to use a limit order. And so notice it would have come back and filled you right there. So that's something to think about there. Although that's not the high of the day, that's a high point for right now, and so you got to be careful of it. You generally, if you're not real skilled at this, I would always want to make sure I've got enough room between here and the last high to scalp out, or else I'd skip that trade, or I'd try to get in with a limit order like here, back down here, and catch it. But if you like entering here, which I did, this is one I'd add on when you got that second opportunity. And notice it does kind of look like a little breakout pullback long, but at that point, let me show you what this looks like on the far right hand side of the chart. You can see that doesn't really look like a range or congestion yet. It's more of a correction back to the EMA, so that's why I like that one. With this being your signal bar, letting it break and drop a limit order, at least a couple ticks back, but you could have come all the way back, and you could have come all the way back to here and got in, and then add on right there if you wanted, which I highly recommend. Then we're working down. There's a failed second entry long here. Again, there was a lot of congestion across here, a couple of dojis in there. You definitely don't want to go short right there. But I don't even like going short here, even though this is a failed second entry long, because we don't quite have a measured move. There's a couple of different reasons. It's a first entry. If you're going short, there's but mainly because they're all stacked up right along that EMA, and it's trying to hold, and generally you want to let it push through and come back and test the EMA, unless you've got more evidence that we may not try to make a retest of the high, because this is a pretty strong move up, and even though we got a break of that trend line and a new high, you probably should consider a retest of this trend line as well, which I don't have on here, because that is a pretty strong move up. We don't quite have a measured move with this. There's several different reasons why I would be very leery about taking that failed second entry short, mostly because it looks like a two-legged pullback to the EMA. I don't think I'd go long there, but I definitely wouldn't go short out of that. You're better off to wait on this one. And notice if you draw that line, this equal distance line, I wasn't real sure about it, but it looks like it came back to it, and then it was kind of holding again. So I do believe it was a two-tiered channel. If this would have just come down a few ticks and then bounced, I wouldn't have been fit. But when it just keeps going and it's back inside here holding, then you got to figure, hey, that's probably maybe that's a midline, and draw your equal distance line and see what happens when it comes back to it. And it does come back to it. It pushes through and you get your break, then it goes lower. So, but anyway, I like this one because it basically makes a double top. It's a lower high. It's a big bearish bar. It went out the top and turns and goes right out the bottom. Just put your stop there. Um, if it hadn't have had this type of bar, I probably would have said wait on a second entry, but that's really bearish, and you can see it got bearish quickly again. And this is all too choppy, and we're kind of bouncing off the lows pretty much all the way. It's tempting to enter here, but you've had such a big move down, and you haven't come back to the EMA. You didn't quite get back to the possible trend line. It's just you don't have any kind of tick higher, any trap or anything. You get one here, but then again you moved even further down, and you're coming off the lows, so it's time to go back to probably back to this side. And notice it hits the midline and turns down before it does come back. And really, this is going sideways. Remember this resistance over here? Look at it back in play right across there. So you got to pay attention to that. And then the same thing down here. This whole thing kind of comes back in play again. But you get a little breakout pullback short. There is a hidden second entry right there as well, and it's right off that trend line. Notice there's a double top. It's a little failed break higher. There's several different reasons to like that short right there, and then you get two legs down to a new low. And then you get another second entry short right here. Notice you had a little break and attempted a new high on this one coming up, and you got a nice bearish bar. You actually could have gone long right here. I really wouldn't have had a problem going long right here because you're probably going to get you're still probably trying to get a retest of this high on this little trend line working up. So if you got the way, it's really hard to switch, and I was still thinking short at this point. So that's the reason this one, I wasn't crazy about marking that one blue. But if you weren't short, if for some reason you were just kind of waiting on a better setup, there's some reasons to consider that long right there because, and it's a nice bullish bar, and it would have been a nice move back up. But notice now you've got a break of this trend. I think this one's probably more like that right there. And I would treat this as the first break. And that's also a failed second entry short. Even though you would have got a short out of that, you could still treat that like a failed second entry. So just go long above that bar on a stop. Quick, easy move. Makes a new high. It finds resistance there. It gives it a little double test, and look how bearish that bar is. You could have actually waited on it to break lower and used the limit order, but I don't have a problem just putting a sell stop right there because you're probably going to run down and try to make a new low, and that's exactly what it does. Then you push. Now look, this is what a reversal pattern looks like. Look how it pushed right through that EMA, and look how we're going back and forth across the EMA. You can really trade this both ways now, and it's really tempting to kind of go long down here. If you want to be a little more aggressive, you really could add on. You could take a long right here. It's away from the EMA, but it's not real far away from the EMA, but it does bounce off this lower line here. If you drew this and you draw it on and you put it down here across the bottom, you see it fits pretty nicely, and then you got your midline right here. And that's another reason I like that trade right there, because it's a double test of that midline, which I forgot to mention that a while ago. But if you really wanted, I'm gonna mark it green. I'm not crazy about it, but there's some reasons to consider that trade. I'll mark it green. You're better off to enter on this one, and look what happens. You shoot right through the EMA. You push through the midline here. You pull back to the EMA. You get a first entry. You pull back. You get a second entry, and look at that big bullish reversal bar. And that's the first break of this trend line working up. And so now we're probably headed to this upper line. And look, that's a great move up through there. That's a classic reversal type pattern. And guaranteed, people that aren't paying attention and don't know what's going on, they all got short right here because we've been kind of working down. And it looks like, and we are working down, but they don't realize we've just come off the low and we pushed through the midline right there, and the way that reversal pattern through that EMA, and notice how it's holding the support above that EMA. That's a great, man, that's a nice reversal type pattern. All your clues are there, and it tells you what's going to happen, and off it goes. But you did have your break, a new high. And again, it's tempting. This is almost a repeat pattern right here of this right here. So there's enough reasons to go short right there. Um, you're still a little way from the EMA. So I'm going to mark that one, and I'm okay to mark that one red. I can't remember if this one went high. I wasn't watching the chart here. I don't know if this one went higher and then turned down. If it did, that's all the more reasons to like that one. But there's still enough reasons to like going short right there. And then, of course, you got this trend line working down. Now you get a break. You get a double test back of your trend line. Look at that bearish bar. What I would do is maybe let it break below this one and drop your limit order back up here. Try to get a little better entry. But as nice as that bar is, I almost don't have a problem just using the stop. But you're better off to let it break lower and then drop a limit order, a tick or two back up in here. You know, if you tried to get all the way back, it bumped against that order, but whether or not you got filled, I'm not sure. So you don't want to get too conservative because you'll miss out on a good trade, and that was a good trade. It did come back and probably get your break-even stops, but you could have got a couple of points, a couple of 3 points out of that maybe, depending on how you played it. If you just exited right before it got to that midline again, and that really was right into the 2 o'clock hour. So I didn't mark anything after that one, but that might be enough reason just to skip that one. But if the setup's there, if you like it, yeah, we'll see. It's not quite 2 o'clock. You got about 3 minutes there. But that was it for the day. This was a little trickier day. You had to be paying attention. You had to be drawing your short-term trend lines, and you needed to, use your double test rules and things like that to find some of these, like this one and this one and this one here. And this is kind of a repeat pattern of this. There's several kind of repeat patterns in here today, and if you hadn't heard me talk about that before, if you see a pattern once and it works and it does the same thing again, it generally will work again. So so always, try to watch and remember what patterns do, and if you get a repeat pattern, they generally will play out the same way, especially if they're with the trend, same trend, or doing the same thing. Just keep that in mind. So, but we're almost 30 minutes into this, so kind of a lot of trades today, a lot of price action. Really, in the end, this is kind of just a sideways range day, but the moves are so big that you can trade them both ways. But especially when it starts going back and forth above and below the EMA, you can trade both ways pretty safely then. So, but I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. But I'm out of here for now. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.